Hello, Internet. It's that time again. It's time to read the Bible. I'm pretty tired, so let's just get right into it. In other news, the latest Helldivers update dropped, and I enjoy the tank greatly when I can get somebody to actually, you know, pilot it with me. But after about 5 attempts, I was able to find somebody who was like, "Yeah." And so, first time I summoned it in, I drove. And the second time, I used the gun. It's very fun. Uh, my sound glitched though, and I didn't hear the extraction coming, so I got left behind. You didn't need to know any of that, but I thought it was fun. All right. So today we'll be beginning with Exodus chapter 19, verses 16 through chapter 21, verse 21. All right. Well, voice. I had a voice in mind. What was it? I don't remember. Oh well. We'll just move on, I suppose. On the morning of the third day, there was a terrific thunder and lightning storm, and a huge cloud. I remember what it was. On the morning of the third day, there was a terrific thunder and lightning storm. Huge cloud came down upon the mountain, and there was a long, loud blast as from a ram's horn, and all the people trembled. Moses led them out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. I was trying to do a Jersey, but it's coming out as more just my gangster, so I'm not as excited as I was. We'll just read it. So big horn blast. Uh, Everybody trembling. Moses led the camp out to meet God. They stood at the foot of the mountain. Okay. All Mount Sinai was covered with smoke because Jehovah descended upon it in the form of fire. The smoke billowed into the sky as from a furnace, and the whole mountain shook with a violent earthquake. As the trumpet blast grew louder and louder, Moses spoke, and God thundered his reply. So the Lord came down upon the top of Mount Sinai and called Moses up to the top of the mountain. And Moses ascended to God. But the Lord told Moses, "Go back down and warn the people not to cross the boundaries. They must not come up here to try to see God, for if they do, many of them will die. Even the priests on duty must sanctify themselves, or else I will destroy them. But the people won't come up into the mountain." Whoops. "But the people won't come up into the mountain," Moses protested. "You told them not to. You told me to set boundaries around the mountain. Declare it off limits because it is reserved for God." But Jehovah said, "Go down and bring Aaron back with you, and don't let the priests and the people break across the boundaries to try and come up here, or I will punish them." So Moses went down to the people and told them what God had said. Then God issued this edict: "I am Jehovah, your God, who liberated you from your slavery in Egypt. You may worship no other God other than me. You shall not make yourselves any idols, no images of animals, birds, or fish. You must never bow or worship it in any way, for I, the Lord your God, am a very possessive. I will not share your affection with any other God." I'm used to the word, instead of possessive, it being what's the word? Jealous. Jealous God. That's how he refers to himself in most other translations. But I guess it's similar enough. Anyway, and when I punish people for their sins, the punishment continues upon the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of those who hate me. But I lavish my love upon thousands of those who love me and obey my commandments. You shall not use the name of Jehovah your God irreverently, nor use it to swear to falsehood. You will not escape punishment if you do. Remember to observe the Sabbath as a holy day. 6 days a week are for your daily duties and your regular work, but the seventh day is a day of Sabbath. Rest before the Lord your God. On that day you are to do no work of any kind, nor shall your son, daughter, or slaves, whether men or women, or your cattle, or your house goods. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven, earth, and sea, and everything in them, and rested the seventh day. So he blessed the Sabbath day, and set it aside for rest. Honor your father and mother, that you may have a long, good life in the land of the Lord your God will give you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not lie. And you must not be envious of your neighbor's house, or want to sleep with his wife, or want his own slave, or want to own his slaves, oxen, donkeys, or anything else he has. 10 Commandments, everybody. All the people saw the lightning and the smoke billowing from the mountain, and heard the thunder and the long, frightening trumpet blast. And they stood at a distance, shaking with fear. They said to Moses, "You tell us what God says, and we will obey. But don't let God speak directly to us, or it will kill us." "Don't be afraid," Moses told them, "for God has come in his way to show you his awesome power, so that from now on you will be afraid to sin against him." As the people stood in the distance, Moses entered into a deep darkness where God was. And the Lord told Moses to be his spokesman to the people of Israel. "You are witness to the fact that I have made known my will to you from heaven. Remember, you must not make or worship idols made of silver or gold or anything else. The altars you make for me must be simple altars of earth. Offer upon them your sacrifices to me, your burnt offerings and peace offerings of sheep and oxen. Build altars only where I tell you to, and I will come and bless you there. You may also build altars from stone, but if you do, then use only uncut stones and boulders. Don't chip or shape the stones with a tool, for that would make them unfit for my altar. And don't make steps for the altar, or someone might look up beneath the stars of your clothing and see your nakedness. Or not the stars, beneath the skirts of your clothing and see your nakedness. Well, that would just be improper, wouldn't it? Here are other laws you must obey. If you buy a Hebrew slave, you shall serve only 6 years and be freed in the seventh, and need pay nothing to regain his freedom. If he sold himself as a slave before he married, then if he married afterwards, only he shall be freed. But if he was married before he became a slave, then his wife shall be freed with him at the same time. But if his master gave him a wife while he was a slave, and they have sons and daughters, the wife and children shall still belong to the master, and he shall go out by himself free. But if the man shall plainly declare, I prefer my master, my wife, and my children, and I would rather not go free, then his master shall bring him before the judges, and shall publicly bore his ear with an awl, and after that he will be a slave forever. If a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not be freed at the end of 6 years, as men are. If she does not please the man who bought her, then he shall let her be bought back again. But he has no power to sell her to a foreigner, since he has wronged her by no longer wanting her after marrying her. And if he arranges an engagement between a Hebrew slave girl and his son, then he may no longer treat her as a slave girl, but must treat her as a daughter. If he himself marries her and then takes another wife, he may not reduce her food or clothing, or fail to sleep with her as his wife. If he fails any of these three things, then she may leave freely without any payment. Anyone who hits a man so hard that he dies shall surely be put to death. But if it is accidental, an act of God, and not intentional, then I will appoint a place where he can run and get protection. However, if a man deliberately attacks another, intending to kill him, drag him even from my altar and kill him. Anyone who strikes his father or mother shall surely be put to death. A kidnapper must be killed, whether he is caught in possession of his victim or has already sold him as a slave. And anyone who reviles or curses his mother or father shall surely be put to death. If two men are fighting, and one hits the other with a stone or with his fist and injures him so that he must be confined to bed, but doesn't die, if later he is able to walk again, even with a limp, the man who hit him will be innocent, except that he must pay for the loss of his time until he is thoroughly healed, and pay any medical expenses. If a man beats his slave to death, whether the slave is male or female, that man shall surely be punished. However, if the slave does not die for a couple of days, then the man shall not be punished, for the slave is his property. I know talking about slavery makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but I mean, it's a thing that was in, it was back then. And God's like, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to set some ground rules. I know some people say that because of, the way, you know, Christianity is for everyone, whether free or not, whether slave or not, that the Bible is against slavery. And I see that point of view, but I also do see that if God really, really was against slavery, he would have told the Israelites to not have slaves. Um, I know it's complicated, and I am not an expert. So some people are like, well, doesn't that make God bad? And I'm like, not really. Because I mean, I don't think it's a sin to have a slave, and I don't think it's a sin to be a slave. I think it is a system that is inherently incredibly prone to mistreatment and what have you. But owning someone doesn't make them less of a person. And if you treated the person well, you were a good master. I don't see a problem with that. Um, Obviously, 99.99% of the time, the way the slaves are acquired is not good. Um, and obviously, that makes everything bad. I don't know how they acquired slaves in the Bible for the Hebrew did. So maybe they mentioned that some people sell themselves into slavery. So maybe it was just a weird, very extreme version of employment back then. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm more curious than judgmental of it. I know God is good, so whatever He says goes. Um, I would like to know His thoughts on exactly at what point slavery is sin and evil, and when is it just another form of human interaction. Because like people love their pets, and I know a lot of people nowadays call them their babies, but they're not. You own them. You own your dog. You own your cat. They are essentially your slave that you don't have work for you. They just are cute, and you keep them around and feed them and give them pets. But you own the animal and you love it, and I don't consider that a bad thing. And even children typically, obviously there are a lot of rules around how you treat your children, but you own your children basically in that you make the decisions for the house, you feed them, you clothe them, you determine where they go to school, you determine what the rules are. And as long as you like don't abuse them to the point where the state needs to come in and take them, you are essentially, you have authority over them. You own them. Obviously, the mentality of it being property is where most people are like, eh. And maybe it's because I'm a nerd and I like my stuff a lot. Like, I don't consider being property to be a negative in and of itself. Like, I know a lot of people treat their possessions better than they treat the people around them. I'm just saying. Um, so hot take, I know. Um, obviously, it's incredibly immoral to kidnap someone and make them a slave. It's incredibly immoral to go to war and intentionally, like, you know, slaughter the men, take the women, and what have you. I don't agree with that form at all. Any of that stuff is bad, 100%. But the actual, like, purely slavery existence, I don't have as big a problem as most people do. That said, once again, back to my initial point, like 99% of the time, it's bad because of all of the human gunkiness to it and how they're acquired, how they're treated, the psychological things that can go along with that, as well as abuse. So it is a system that I'm glad is mostly gone. I know they still have slaves in the Middle East, yeah, a couple of the countries over there, but it's gone from most of the world, and I'm glad it's gone from most of the world because it is a system that is inherently prone to being abused. But a lot of people use this as a gotcha in the Bible, and I'm like, I don't understand why. It was a system. It's not inherently evil. It's just very prone to evil. And God was like, okay, if you're gonna have slaves, this is how I want you to do it. So that's what I think of it. You can disagree with me. Obviously, I am, as I said as well, I'm not an expert, and a lot more educated people than me on both sides of the argument have very different views of it. So I just thought I'd say my 2 cents. Um, sidetrack, side tangent over. Let's move on to something less controversial in the New Testament, hopefully. All right, so we got Matthew chapter 22, no, 23. Matthew chapter 23, verses 13 through 39. Any voice come to mind? Woe to you, Pharisees, and you other religious leaders, hypocrites, for you won't let others enter the kingdom of heaven, and won't go in yourself. And you pretend to be holy with all your long public praying in the streets, while you're evicting widows from their homes. Hypocrites! Yes, woe upon you, hypocrites! For you go to all lengths to make one convert, and then turn into twice the son of hell you are yourselves. Turn him into twice the son of hell you are yourselves. Huh, blind guy! Woe upon you! For the rule is that I'll swear by God's temple means nothing. You can't break that oath. You can break that oath, but to swear by the gold in the temple is binding. Blind fool! Which is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctifies the gold? And you say that you take an oath by the altar and can be broken, but to swear by the gifts of the altar is binding. Blind! For which is greater, the gift on the altar or the altar itself that sanctifies the gift? When you swear by the altar, you are swearing by it and everything on it. And when you swear by the temple, you are swearing by it and by God who lives within it. And when you swear by heaven, you are swearing by the throne of God and by God Himself. It's woe upon you, Pharisees, and you other religious leaders, hypocrite, for you tithe down to the last mint leaf in your garden, but ignore the important thing, justice and mercy and faith. Yes, you should tithe, But you shouldn't leave the more important things undone. Blind guy, you strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. Woe to you, Pharisees, and your religious leaders. Hypocrites, you are so careful to polish the outside of the cup, but the inside is foul with extortion and greed. Blind Pharisee, first cleanse the inside of the cup, and then the whole cup will be clean. Woe to you, Pharisees, and you religious leaders. You are like a beautiful mausoleum, full of dead men's bones and foulness and corruption. You try to look like saintly men, but underneath those pious robes yours are hot besmirched with every sort of hypocrisy and sin. Yes, woe to you, Pharisees, and you religious leaders, hypocrites, for you build monuments to the prophets killed by your fathers, and lay flowers at the graves of godly men they destroy, and say, we certainly would never have acted as our fathers did. Saying that you are accusing yourselves of being the sons of wicked men, and you are following in their steps, filling up the full measure of their evil. Snakes, sons of vipers, how shall you escape the judgment of hell? I will send you prophets and wise men and inspired writers, and you will kill some by crucifixion, and rip open the backs of others with whips in your synagogue, and hound them from city to city, so that you will become guilty of all the blood of murdered godly men, from righteous Abel to Zechariah, son of Barachiah, slain by you in the temple between the altar and the sanctuary. Yes, all accumulated judgment and centuries shall break upon the heads of this very generation. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones all God sends to her. How often I have wanted to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks beneath her wings, but you wouldn't let me. And now your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you this, you will never see me again until you are ready to welcome the one sent to you from God. Thank you very much. And we'll just keep going with this voice because I don't feel like changing it just yet. Psalms chapter 28, verses 1 through 9. I plead with you to help me, Lord, for you are my rock of safety. If you refuse to answer me, I might as well give up and die. Lord, I lift up my hands to heaven and implore your help. Oh, listen to my cry. Don't punish me with all wicked ones who speak so sweetly to their neighbors while planning to murder them. Give them the punishment they so richly deserve. Measure it out to them in proportion to their wickedness. Pay them back for all their evil deeds. They care nothing for God and what he has done, or what he has made. Therefore God will dismantle them like old buildings, never to be rebuilt again. Oh, praise the Lord, for he has listened to my plea. He is my strength and my shield from every danger. I trusted in him, and he helped me. Joy rises in my heart until I burst out in songs of praise to you. The Lord protects his people and gives victory to his anointed king. Defend your people, Lord, defend and bless your chosen one. Lead them like a shepherd, carry them forever in your arms. I had to wrap that up a little quickly because I got in the singing mood, but there wasn't much left of that particular reading. All right, what we got? For last, we have Proverbs chapter 7, verses 1 through 5. Follow my advice, my son. Always keep in mind and stick to it. Obey me and live. Guard my words as your most precious possession. Write them down and also keep them deep within your heart. Love wisdom like a sweetheart. Make her a beloved member of your family. Let her hold you back from affairs with other women. from listening to their flattery. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you had a good time this evening. And as always, most important thing, God bless.